Your brain was not built for infinite scrolling. It was built to notice patterns, solve problems, ask questions, remember danger, and understand the world. But today, it is being pulled through thousands of tiny fragments every day. A joke, a fear, a fact, a lie, a face, a sound, a new idea, gone in seconds. Richard Feynman would not begin by asking, "How much content did you consume today?" He would ask something sharper. What did you actually understand? Because there is a difference between seeing information and thinking. One fills your eyes. The other changes your mind. The modern brain can feel busy without becoming wiser. You watch science clips, motivation clips, news clips, AI clips, history clips, and suddenly it feels like learning. But if someone asks you to explain one idea clearly from beginning to end, the illusion breaks. You remember the feeling, not the structure. People call it brain rot as a joke, but the concern behind a phrase is serious. It describes a mind overloaded with shallow, repetitive, low-value content. Not because every video is bad, but because endless consumption can train the brain to chase stimulation instead of understanding. Imagine Feynman handing you a piece of chalk. He says, "Explain what you learned today." No phone, no tabs, no saved videos, just you and the blackboard. Could you draw the idea? Could you explain the cause and effect? Could you show what is true, what is uncertain, and what you still do not know? Scrolling feels easy because every swipe carries the possibility of reward. Maybe the next video is funny. Maybe it is shocking. Maybe it teaches something. Maybe it makes you feel smarter. That uncertainty keeps the brain searching. The reward is not only the content. The reward is the possibility of the next thing. Novelty wakes the brain up. But too much novelty can make ordinary concentration feel painful. Reading one page becomes boring. Solving one problem feels slow. Listening deeply feels heavy. The brain starts asking for another hit of change before the first idea has even settled. Feynman did not avoid difficult thinking. He played with it. He wrestled with it. He enjoyed the moment when confusion turned into clarity. That kind of joy is different from entertainment. Entertainment gives you a quick feeling. Understanding gives you a lasting structure inside your mind. Not every piece of information feeds a mind. Some information is like sugar. It gives a quick spike, then leaves you empty. Some knowledge is like real food. It takes longer to digest, but it builds strength. The modern problem is that the brain is full, but not nourished. Mental tiredness does not always come from deep work. Sometimes it comes from scattered attention. Your mind keeps switching from one emotional signal to another. Surprise, fear, humor, envy, outrage, curiosity, desire. Each switch has a cost. At the end, you feel exhausted but cannot point at anything you truly built. Awareness means something entered your mind. Attention means you stayed with it. Deep attention means you held it long enough for meaning to form. Infinite scroll gives you awareness of many things, but attention to very few. That is why you can watch for an hour and remember almost nothing. Friction is not always bad. When an idea is difficult, the mind must slow down, compare, question, and connect. That friction creates understanding. But online systems often remove friction. They make everything smooth, fast, and instantly replaceable. The result is a mind that touches everything and holds nothing. The Feynman method is simple but brutal. Choose one idea. Explain it in plain language. Find the gaps. Return to the source. Simplify again. This process fights brain rot because it forces the brain to stop collecting impressions and start building explanations. If you cannot explain something simply, you may not understand it yet. That does not mean you are stupid. It means your knowledge is still cloudy. Feynman's genius was not that he made everything easy. It was that he refused to hide confusion behind impressive words. Some content feels deep because it uses dramatic music, slow narration, and powerful words. But depth is not a mood. Depth is structure. A deep idea has reasons, evidence, limits, and consequences. If a video gives you emotion but no understanding, it may only be decorating confusion. AI can now produce explanations instantly. That is useful, but dangerous when speed replaces thought. A paragraph can sound confident even when it is shallow. A summary can feel complete even when it misses the hard parts. Feynman would not ask, "Does it sound right?" He would ask, "Can I test it?" The first real question is not, "Do I like this?" The first real question is, How do we know? How do we know this claim is true? What evidence supports it? What would prove it wrong? What assumptions are hidden underneath? This one question can protect the mind from thousands of illusions. The brain becomes better at what it repeats. If it repeats distraction, distraction becomes easy. If it repeats focus, focus becomes stronger. This is why daily habits matter. You are not only choosing what to watch, you are training the kind of mind you will have tomorrow. Boredom used to be a doorway. When nothing entertained you, the mind began to wander, imagine, reflect, and create. Now boredom is interrupted instantly. 1 second of silence becomes uncomfortable. But without boredom, the mind loses one of its oldest spaces for original thought. Feynman's curiosity was not passive. He did not just want to be entertained by the universe. He wanted to understand it. Wonder made him look closer. Brain rot does the opposite. It gives a feeling of wonder without the discipline of investigation. The algorithm does not need to know your soul. It only needs to notice your behavior. What makes you pause? What makes you click? What makes you angry? What makes you watch again? Over time, your attention becomes predictable, and what is predictable becomes easier to capture. Your attention is not unlimited. Every minute spent on one thing is a minute not spent on another. Every fragment leaves a mark. Every interruption breaks a thread. A serious thinker protects attention because attention is the doorway through which understanding enters. Deep work feels hard because it does not reward you every few seconds. It asks for patience before satisfaction. It asks you to stay with confusion before clarity arrives. But this is exactly why it is valuable. The things that build the mind often feel slow at first. Silence is not empty. Silence is where the mind processes what is absorbed. Without silence, experiences pile up without becoming wisdom. Feynman spent time playing, thinking, questioning, and exploring. A mind that is never quiet becomes full of noise, but poor in insight. Here is a simple test. After watching something, close the app and explain the idea without looking. If you cannot explain it, you did not learn it yet. You may have enjoyed it. You may have felt inspired. But learning begins when the idea becomes yours. Half knowledge is dangerous because it feels complete. You know enough words to sound informed, but not enough structure to think clearly. This is a perfect condition for overconfidence. Feynman warned against this kind of false understanding because it fools the person who carries it. Memory needs attention. If attention is divided, memory becomes fragile. When you jump from one clip to another, your brain rarely has time to organize what matters. The result is mental fog. You saw many things, but very few became stable knowledge. The answer is not necessarily to throw away technology. The answer is to use it consciously. Watch fewer things, but understand them better. Save less, but study more. Scroll less, but think more. The goal is not to escape the modern world. The goal is to stop being controlled by it. Before opening another video, ask one question. What am I trying to learn? That small question changes the entire experience. It turns passive consumption into active investigation. Feynman's mind was powerful because it did not just receive information. It attacked ideas with curiosity. Choose one idea each day and explain it on paper. Draw it. Simplify it. Question it. Teach it to an imaginary student. Find one gap and fix it. This small ritual can do more for your mind than hours of random content. It turns information into understanding. Slowness feels outdated in a world obsessed with speed. But truth often requires slowness. You need time to notice contradictions, time to check assumptions, time to compare evidence, time to let an idea settle. Fast content can show you many doors. Slow thinking lets you walk through one. Stimulation with meaning. A stimulated mind is not always a meaningful mind. You can be excited, shocked, amused, and overwhelmed without becoming wiser. Meaning requires connection. It asks, why does this matter? How does it fit? What changes because I know this? Without those questions, stimulation disappears quickly. Feynman respected reality more than appearances. If an idea sounded beautiful but failed in the real world, it had to be corrected. This is the attitude modern minds need. Do not ask only whether content feels good. Ask whether it leaves you closer to truth. Your mind is not a feed to be endlessly filled. It is a workshop. It needs tools, space, patience, and order. If you throw everything into the workshop without sorting it, nothing useful can be built. Thinking means selecting, arranging, testing, and refining. Real curiosity is not the urge to click the next thing. It is a desire to stay with one thing until it becomes clear. It asks better questions. It tolerates confusion. It does not run away when the answer becomes difficult. That is a curiosity Feynman lived by. The good news is that attention can be trained again. Start small. Read for 10 minutes without switching. Watch one serious explanation and summarize it. Leave your phone away during deep work. Practice boredom. Practice silence. Practice finishing one thought before starting another. Here is a rule for the digital age. Do not consume more than you can process. If you watch 10 things and understand none, you are not learning. If you watch one thing and rebuild it in your own words, your mind becomes stronger. The real battle is not against the internet. It is against unconscious attention. The machine becomes dangerous when you stop choosing. Feynman's spirit reminds us to wake up inside our own thinking, to ask, to test, to explain, to refuse mental laziness disguised as entertainment. Brain rot does not happen in one dramatic moment. It happens quietly. One skipped thought, one avoided difficulty, one more scroll instead of one more question. Slowly, the mind becomes trained to chase fragments, but the same mind can be trained again to seek understanding. So the next time your brain feels tired after endless content, do not only ask what you watched, ask what you understood, ask what you can explain, ask what you can remember, ask what changed in your thinking. Because in the end, the goal is not to see more. The goal is to think better.